Welcome to Frankfurt, where today I'm going to be flying on the Queen of the Skies. Yes, a Boeing 747, the original jumbo. Coming up, all the joys of the Lufthansa business class lounges, the sheer luxury of business class on the upper deck. I'll plough through the fine dining experience with all 5 courses on the a la carte menu, and of course check out the German beer and sparkling wine. Tired and dated, I'll investigate if you can actually get any sleep on the quaint and retro reclining seats. Tried and tested so you don't have to. Indeed, there are very few 747s left any longer, so I'm lucky enough to have found one, and it's going to be taking me all the way to Singapore from Frankfurt. It's Frankfurt Airport, late at night, and yes, over my shoulder, that is the unmistakable look of a Boeing 747, the original jumbo jet. They're getting increasingly hard to find in aviation nowadays, but Lufthansa still has a few, and I'm going to be getting on it all the way down from Frankfurt to Singapore. I'm going to be flying in business class in the little bubble behind the cockpit, just to see how the old girl is flying nowadays. But before that, I've got a few lounges to explore. I arrived on the short hop from London Heathrow. I would show you the catering, but there wasn't any, so I need to find a lounge when I arrive just so I can get some dinner. Now, Lufthansa has a whopping 14 lounges at Frankfurt Main International Airport, and with a Star Alliance Gold, I can get into most. Lufthansa actually has a rather odd way of levelling status. If you pony up for a business class ticket, you can only get into the business class lounge, which sounds logical, until you twig that the Senator lounges, which you can access in economy with a gold card, are actually better quality. I digress. Lounges are known by their gate number, as there are so many, and the B4143 Senator lounge is the absolute flagship. It's hygienic and functional, and it has lots of beige armchairs. It's famous as the City Lights Lounge, as you can see the lights of Frankfurt's main shopping centre from the window, if you just about squint. Most people, however, just head for the fully staffed bar, which has got 4 champagnes on offer and cocktails mixed on demand. Catering is good, solid German food from North Rhine-Westphalia, plus hot soup, an OK salad bar which tends towards varieties of herb lard, and a German speciality of the month, which can be everything from noodles to ramen. However, it's all about the bar, just so you can numb your senses from the blandness of the decor. There is a fridge full of beer and wine, or you can mix your own cocktails. These rotate once a month with an instruction manual on the clipboard. Today it was Limoncello month, or Florali Martini. Lovely stuff. Shame there aren't any other customers really to enjoy it. Now, the bar itself incorporates unique lighting effects, apparently. They've been created with over 30,000 LEDs, no less. There's also a modern wellness area, which is basically 2 small spa rooms offering massages, facials and full body treatments at €120 a pop. Yeah, I decided I was well enough not to fork out that kind of money. Indeed, it's hard to work out what's wrong with the Frankfurt Lufthansa lounge. It does the job, but it's just as if somebody said, what are the main elements you need in a lounge? Seats, snacks, walls and a roof, and serve that up on a platter instead of something with vim, vigour, style and panache. In hunt of a better lounge, I had to take a long train down a short pier, go Schengen to non, 2 security checks, and back to the main lounge in the non-Schengen area of the A+ extension by the Z gate. This one is a Senator variant. I do hope you're keeping up. Ooh, that's what we've been hunting for all these years, a still existent and flying Boeing 747. Now, Frankfurt Airport is the biggest airport by passenger traffic in Germany, so surely Lufthansa could do better than the B-Gates lounge. Because in Frankfurt you can either be positively Schengen or not, Senator or not, be A, B, C or Z, or not have a mind and wander around in ever-decreasing circles in lounges that look identical, but are not. The A plus Z Senator Lounge has even blander benches, or are they banquettes? Can't see many senators in the mood for a good banquette in here, quite frankly, but being a lounge for the long haul to Asia, it has recliners, so you can get some sleep before your harder, more uncomfortable, upright business class seats on the plane. And that's what we've been waiting for, a Boeing 747. Here in miniature form, sadly you can't fly this around the lounge. I've tried. Equally, you can't get a particularly good dinner. Tonight, the height of Lufthansa culinary excellence extends to a yellow chicken curry or meatballs with corn and carrots, both with rice. Yum! If you want to be really healthy, there's the option of green salad or lettuce with crunchy bits. But the cheese board is amazing, and Lufthansa is really the place to come if you want some cheap processed meat. But why worry? There's a bar, and it's all complimentary. Sadly, I can't be very complimentary about the wine, which is the Rhone Valley Chateau de Pain stripper variety. Champagne isn't, instead there's some Loire Valley Sparkling Brut, and to round it off for dessert, there are some snack jars that wouldn't be out of place in a United Club from 1990. Oh dear. To cleanse my palate after that lot, I needed lashings of Franziskaner Weizenbier. Right, it's time to split this joint as the bongs are bonging. Now the gate is ready, much to the shock of many passengers who are waiting for the Singapore Airlines flight, which takes an identical route and leaves at an identical time, but leaves from a completely different terminal. How the gate staff laughed when they told dozens of passengers they got 10 minutes to make it to the other side of Frankfurt. And it's time for a close-up look at our Boeing, on which we're going all the way from Frankfurt, Maine to Singapore, Changi. 10,000 Ks or 6,500 miles in old money on this lovely bird. Ooh. And there we are. That's a height of sophistication for Lufthansa. A 2+2+2 layout on the main deck. If the Boeing 747 designer was alive today, he'd be turning in his grave. That's because it hasn't really moved on that much since Joe Stutter put pen to paper in the 1960s. But I go upstairs, where I'm back in my natural environment. Up those stairs, and then I can see a long, narrow 2-2 layout. That's so much better. It's rather like the old A318 BA used to fly out of London City to New York. Comparing it with the seats downstairs, it does look much more sophisticated, almost, but not quite, a private jet feel. There are 80 business class seats on the Lufthansa 747, one small upper deck and two big business class cabins downstairs. When I nipped downstairs, I had a look at Economy 2, that's in a 343 layout with a 31-inch pitch, almost identical to what the original 747 had in the 1970s. It's good to see that Lufthansa believes in staying traditional. At least in economy, you do get seatback screens now, and they're even bigger in premium economy. Premium economy is oddly sandwiched in the middle of economy. Run-of-the-mill 38-inch pitch and a 242 setup, if you like that kind of thing. But personally, I'll get back upstairs where I belong.
On board, please activate the Wi-Fi function. You're welcome to ask us if you have any further questions about using electronic devices on board or about Flynet. Please fasten your seatbelt now and pull it tight.
The upper deck features a third business class cabin with 8 rows of 32 seats arranged in 2-2 layout. Due to that layout, contrary to the bigger layout on the lower deck, this cabin has got a much more intimate feel. It's clean and unremarkable and very Germanesque, with white cabin walls, grey seat covers, and that creates a very neutral and bland colour palette. And you thought the lounges were dull.
Well, there we go. We are on board the Boeing 747 operated by Lufthansa. The cabin has a decidedly retro 1990s vibe, but so far it's not too bad. And all we also have, the most important vase, a welcome champagne. Let's see how we go. That's rather good.
Boeing 747-8. Also on behalf of the entire crew on a Lufthansa flight to Singapore. We're almost ready. Loading is not finished yet. It will take another roughly 5 minutes and then we can commence our flight. One remark about that, in case the air show, at least at the beginning of the flight, shows the routing via the Crimea Peninsula, obviously we will not fly over the Crimea and Ukraine airspace, but stay well south of it. So for the time being, wish a pleasant stay on board.
We'll see about that. Right now I'm finding the seat actually kind of works. There's a blanket at the seat and the mattress topper is stuffed into the cubbyhole in front. One issue is that all pairs of seats are angled slightly towards one another, which is great for couples, bad plan for solo travellers, since the feet compartment's right next to your neighbour and feet occasionally touch in the night. Indeed, the seat feels completely dated for business class, with a lack of privacy and not even a divider between pairs of seats. At least there are the high-quality Lufthansa slippers, so it's time to kick off the Tims and enjoy my footrest pigeonhole. Well, it's a bit large for pigeons, actually. Maybe turkeys are all right. The passengers who feel like one, having stumped up for this. At least there's a decent amenity kit, if you can find it. It's in this small, tiny, hidden compartment by your ankles in the bulkhead wall. It's got the usual slippers, eye mask and low-octane moisturiser. And don't forget the pyjamas and a bottle of water. Lufthansa are pushing the boat out here, but the pyjamas are actually really rather good and quite high quality. But it all comes down to that seat, and disappointing though it is, the Boeing 747-800 business class seat by Lufthansa is actually quite comfortable in the upright position. It's got a pitch of 64 inches and a width of 20 inches. There is a reading light located next to the headrest, and the centre arm holds a seat control and a handset for the in-tight entertainment, plus a large fold-out table. It's a cold, clear night as we leave Frankfurt, main Concourse Z for Longsheng, sitting on top of Concourse A. Now the airport's named after the longest tributary on the Rhine, the Main, which rises in the snowfields of northeastern Bavaria, and not named for the practical reason it's a main airport in Germany. Okie dokie, there we go. That's our 747-800 series, spooling up 4 enormous General Electric GENX high bypass turbofans. Incidentally, on the top deck of the 747 you get great side bins for stowage and for losing your laptop in, which was only returned 6 months later, having been around the world 4 times. As we head up into the cruise, it's time to get a bit of entertainment going and see if it's just as bad as it's reported to be. You need to lift up the cocktail tray before the drinks arrive to access the remote. Headphones are by AKG and they aren't bad at all. These are the N60NCs, which are the best-in-class active noise cancellation headphones you can get from AKG, and I was really very impressed. At $450 a pop, you'd want to take them off the plane, except it's strictly verboten. Unimpressive is the Lufthansa entertainment interface, which is straight out of the turn of the millennium. In the noughties, this was state-of-the-art, and I had to remind myself that we've rather moved on since those days, which, after all, was only a decade ago, or half the lifespan of a cat with a lot of miles on the clock. However, the quality of the screen's actually pretty good. Now, talking of clocks, it's cocktail hour! Except Lufthansa, of course, being of a practical bent, just lists the miniatures, which are the same as you get back in punishment class. Now I'll save the Jägermeister and the Ramazuti for breakfast and delve headfirst into a good gin and tonic. And I'm glad to see I get my nuts in a bowl. Of course, being this millennium, I need to connect straight away to the internet to find out what's happened in the past 5 minutes since I left the ground. And Lufthansa does have Wi-Fi on its 747. It's €27 for the flight and speeds up to 4 megabits per second. Yeah, that's about as fast as an asthmatic ant. Right, heading over Austria, and we can pull out that tiny little table and peruse the haute cuisine that's Germany's finest. They like that cabbage, don't they? Duck and cabbage, pumpkin and onion, goose and cabbage, pike stew, potato dumpling, or pumpkin pasta with pumpkin wedge and pumpkin seeds. Just one look at the menu and I knew I had to try the duck and cabbage with lingonberry. Now that's a staple of Northern European cuisine, and it's mainly wild caught in IKEA. The lingonberry for Lufthansa is actually hand-grown commercially in the Netherlands and ferried by serfs to Frankfurt, no less. But you know what? It's actually really rather good. It goes great with the Flas Riesling, a second Anna made by the Lugenmüller family with all the hints of the terroir with a lush aroma of plums and pears. As tart as a weekend in Blackball, it's got buckets of flavour. Also a lovely goat salad washed down with lashings of balsamic vinegar. The goats didn't die in vain. And to celebrate their efforts, I moved on to the Grunterwurzlinger from Schloss Gorbels, an excellent winery in Austria, having a fine smoothness. After years of staying in Düsseldorf and Berlin, it was great to also get some real German rye bread. Tough enough to be called hardtack in Portsmouth. You don't want to lose a molar on this stuff, but it tastes great. Heading over Vienna now, a side note, Lufthansa do have their own cutlery, but they don't have their own brand of spanners, unlike Qantas. And on to the mains, the goose and red cabbage with potato dumpling. I guess it's better than the wild river caught pike that I was offered, a fish I would never get to grips with, mainly because it'll have your arm off if you try and land it. You know when you see a tray of slops on your airline tray and you pray it tastes better than it looks to sustain the next 14 hours, and then you taste it? Well, I did, and my taste buds loved me forever. Tender meat cooked to perfection and paired with tangy and sweet cabbage. The dumpling looks like something you get on the Autobahn to Hamburg, but even that was light and crisp with all the flavour of West Rhine-Westphalia. Sarajevo over the starboard wing. I was stuck half a lifetime ago in the Holiday Inn in Sarajevo, and the thought has me reaching for the reds. Now I've got a lot to choose from here. Medoc suits a zeitgeist, and the Chateau Le Montel is basically a Cab Sauv mixed with Merlot in vast tanks, but with amazing smooth tannins. Incidentally, the Lufthansa staff never have a problem with offering another glass. Indeed, I was positively waving away their top-ups every 3 minutes, just so I could get a minute to film it as we head over the Black Sea now and just south of the Crimea Peninsula. But why worry? The next one up is the Ravassecurio, a classic Portuguese blend with dark berries, notes of tobacco, and a favourite of Tap Air Portugal. As we head into a dessert with a creamy cheesecake and a red berry compote, again, a real surprise from Lufthansa. It's lovely, light and delicious. A word I rarely use at 43,000 feet, as far from the ground as we can be. Again, I do wish though for the original 747, we could just inch up to a ceiling height of 45,000. Interesting route, but at least it would be hard for anything in the Black Sea to impact us up here. More cheese? Good! Montegalo blue, olive cheese or goat's cheese, which would be amazing, except the crew had absolutely no idea which farm in northern Bavaria the goats came from. To compensate, they offered me some Portuguese port from Porto, and try saying that after 10 glasses. We're now in the much safer flying territory of Iraq, about to fly via Tehran and then Afghanistan, and that calls for beer. But make no mistake, this isn't Emirates with a pub at the back. Instead, there's a quaint 1970s style Lufthansa galley with juices set up, or if you speak German nicely to the crew, they offer you an Erdinger Weizenbier. Brewed and bottled in Germany since 1886, Erdinger is a hazy pale yellow brew rich with yeast flavours that crawl out of the bottle and get you ready for a humdinger of a hangover. But I believe in wine than beer, and then you'll feel fine. However, I needed to sleep as I was doing my impressions of being as tired as a newt. And 6 hours later, I woke up just north of Hyderabad, having overflown Raipur. I know a good pub down there. You know what? I slept amazingly well. The seat is old, but in context it does work. The crew offered me a wake-up snack, all washed down with a Pasqua. This is a black label Chardonnay from Italy, an absolute ambassador for the Verona Chardonnays, and goodness, it gets better after the second and third glass. Now, I flicked on the light so I could read the menu, and semolina porridge, cranberry and walnut, or scrambled egg and potato. Yeah, suddenly we seem to have turned into a vegetarian flight this morning. But nevertheless, the scrambled egg and potato was actually, again, really rather good. Doing eggs on a plane is always a huge problem, but Lufthansa seem to have cracked it, if you'll pardon the fun. They also serve a lovely flaky croissant as well, and even that cranberry and walnut mix works very well indeed. So I was really quite impressed, and since we're in business class to set me up for the day, there's nothing like Lufthansa's Bloody Mary with Grey Goose vodka. I thought I was the only one having one for breakfast. Remember, I'd already had a glass of wine to wake me up, but a quick look around the upper deck in business class showed at least 2/3 of Lufthansa passengers like this way to fly, or at least to breakfast. I guess you don't get this in steerage.
There we go. That's business class on Lufthansa on the 747 on the upper deck. The seats are decidedly retro and the hard product could certainly be improved, but nevertheless it feels quite good and the service is amazing. Cheers.
Once cocktail hour was done, I flipped up that tiny tray and checked out the bathroom, which, again, rather like the rest of the plane, is pretty pedestrian and like it's come out of something from the year 2000. Even the amenities come in just one plastic tray, but it does come with a plastic sunflower and a vase. I tried the Wi-Fi again, which had got faster as many people were still asleep. However, there is another way to get on the net: GSM. It allows you to roam using your normal phone 4G on the plane's GSM network. It's mainly designed for Deutsche Telekom. However, Vodafone also has a Lufthansa agreement, which is way cheaper than the in-flight Wi-Fi, but also much slower. At least I could lean back and relax and browse the net in my Z-frame recliner. Oh, that's better. Feet into that tiny turkey hole as I settle in to relax. With a glass of champagne, indeed. The bar is fully open once again. The crew have also come round with a small box of chocolate and biscuits and, of course, glasses of whatever you want. After all, where we're landing in Singapore, it's already got around to middle of the afternoon. Now, on this flight, Lufthansa have moved on to the Monopoo. This is the Heidsieck Monopole Blue Top, a batch brew of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. The nose has got aromas of stewed fruits and hints of honey. There are also floral notes of white flowers dominated with cherry plumes, oranges and peaches. It's also about 25 quid down Tesco, so at best a mid-range poo, beloved of the home counties. It's not the most subtle of the champers. It's got a powerful, vigorous and highly vivacious flavour, although it was very popular with the Emperor of Germany back in the day, apparently.
Come on, Untitled Chapter, it's your first Amster speaking. I do hope you had a very good night and rest here aboard during our night flighting. And as we're approaching our destination, Singapore, I turned on the northern sequence sign, and we're soon for defense towards the airport. As we have to circumvent some calls and we have 2 minutes to update set. Please double check that your seatbelts are fastened.
Well into the descent now into a thundery and stormy Singapore, with menacing towers of cumulonimbus clouds extending high into the sky. As we curve around the bottom of Singapore for a straight-in approach to Changi, I had a look around the cabin again, and you know what? It's not that bad. The seat, old though it is quite comfortable and best described as fine, if that isn't damning it with faint praise. There was a lovely crew who really tried hard to make it a special flight. There's Wi-Fi, GSM phone roaming. It's also worth noting the mains power socket in the centre console. The food itself, I found, looks far worse than it actually is, and I found it very tasty. And the bar itself was free-flowing, even if the wine was fairly pedestrian. However, I can understand it that many people describe the Lufthansa business class experiences, well, quite frankly, just a little bit disappointing. And so it is. Just a few nautical miles south of Changi now as we fly in over all the shipping in the harbour. Lufthansa business class seat has got decent bedding, but it's simply not the most comfortable in any position, especially in the lie flat position. My feet were just inches away from my seatmates. Indeed, the mattress pad and plush duvet were very much appreciated, and thank goodness for that mattress, as without it, the seat is quite firm. There we go, just coming into Changi Airport right now. The 800 series features similar engines and cockpit technology to the 787 Dreamliner. It's also the world's longest airplane, with a fuselage length of 250 feet. Good, and there we are, safely on the ground at Singapore Changi. Other points about the seats are they really lack privacy, and everybody expects direct aisle access in business class nowadays, unless you fly on Emirates, of course, where there's even a dreaded middle seat in business on the 777. The in-flight entertainment system's on a rather ancient platform and looks archaic, but is otherwise rather good, with a decent screen and lots of modern up-to-date content. So at best I'd describe the experience as average, or middle of the road, or a bit senile. I can't help but feel that, well, part of the problem is that the aviation world has quite simply moved on, and Lufthansa has yet to catch up. Flying the Boeing 747, also known as a Queen of the Skies, of course, is an epic experience, and Lufthansa is one of the last remaining airlines in the world that still flies this aircraft type, with no less than 27 Boeing 747s in its fleet. And indeed, the 747-800 series is the latest, quietest, more economical and more environmentally friendly version of the famous aircraft, launched in 2010 on a public quite literally agog with indifference. So just how much did this obsequious symbol of wealth cost me? Well, the flight itself would have cost £8,000 if I'd ponied up the cash to Lufthansa one way, if I'd lost what remained of my mind. But I paid a mere £600. Firstly, by buying the ticket in economy from Heathrow to Sydney. Then I could have taken a gamble of bidding up to $2,000 for the mere chance of an upgrade. But if you're going to manage my booking and ask to reprice the ticket to premium economy, you can buy a seat up front for an extra £505, or in business class for $766. Guaranteed. Way cheaper than anything the airline was offering at booking, so long as you can cope with the 30 minutes to Frankfurt in economy. But anyway, as passengers clear out of the upper deck, it gives me a chance to really appreciate what a novel experience it is flying up here, even if you can't escape that really bland colour scheme. I mean, grey with a little beige? Yeah. But the seat itself, it's a bit firm, but it's quite comfortable. It does have that sliding headrest, which really does improve matters. Equally, that mattress topper, that's very good indeed, and the pillows are nice, large and squashy on Lufthansa, so it really isn't all that bad, although quite frankly, it could be better. So there we go, that's what we wanted to see, and that's what the upper deck looks like without any passengers. And you can see the 2-2 layout with the seats angled into one another. That's really not ideal, but nevertheless, it does make for a very cosy and compact cabin, and you do get that kind of private jet feel. I was very glad actually that I had the opportunity to fly on the 747 in the upper deck while it's still flying.
Well, there we go. I've made it all the way through to Singapore Changi Airport, where not only did it have a swimming pool on the roof, but it also has ice cold beer as well. Very welcome after the extremely long flight. I'm really not impressed with the seat at all. I've got to say, even the lounges as a hard product really weren't very good indeed. But I was pleasantly surprised by the food, and equally the service was top notch. On the upper deck of the 747, you get that sort of private jet experience. On the whole, it was very good.